over a month ago, I made a video where I talked about 10 albums that I loved but people hated. So it makes sense to talk about the opposite. These are 10 albums that I hate but people love. Welcome to Bryer's Music Showcase. I'm Bryer and welcome back to another video. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below how crazy I am in the comments. Bryer's Music Showcase is brought to you by the people over at Patreon. Pledge today and get access to exclusive perks. Link in the description. Okay. So, just to bring things down a little bit, let me just say I'm using hate a little loosely, because I'll be honest, there's a couple of these albums I'm going to show I don't think are the worst thing in the world, but compared to other things I've heard, I just don't quite get the hype that some people have. I don't really like using the word overrated too often, because again, it all comes down to my personal preference. But anyway, this is just going to be hopefully fun. Hopefully people won't take this too seriously. So we're just going to go ahead, get started, and we'll see how it goes. So these first two I'm going to show are albums I've actually talked about not that long ago. I did a video where I talked about 10 of the worst debut albums in my collection. I'll leave a link to that video if you want to check that out. So again, I think these two were in there. So first one is going to be Electric Light Orchestra, or The Electric Light Orchestra, with their first album. Either it's the self-titled debut or it's called No Answer if you're in the US. And just so I can just get these out of the way, again, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. You know, Jeff Lynne, I do think the seeds on where he wants to take the band are here, but the biggest weak link here is Roy Wood. I just don't care for any of his songs. I think he's a pretty lackluster singer, and it just kind of bogs the whole listening experience for me. But there are people out there who adore these very early albums from the band, but I don't know, to me they get way better down the road. But again, just not purely my thing, but I don't hate it. It's not the worst thing. This one I still can't bring myself to say I like. Again, I'll be brief, but we have Freak Out by Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. I've said this before on my channel, but I just found I'm not really that into this period of Frank. This very experimental, very garage rock, you know, very, not really avant-garde, but definitely has a quirk to it that I just can't really bring myself to enjoy. It has some comedic moments, but when it comes to Frank Zappa, I just think I prefer his more jazz fusion, progressive rock era more than this more psychedelic, experimental, whatever this is. I know there's some people that love this era of Frank Zappa, but I just cannot bring myself to say I'm one of them, but that's just me. So this next one I'm going to talk about is kind of the biggest outlier of this entire stack, because it's not really rock or pop for that matter. So the band, or the group, if you will, is called Tangerine Dream, and this is Rubicon. Now, Tangerine Dream is a band I know, I've heard their name being brought up a few times occasionally. Never knew anything about them. And so one day I decided to take a chance, and I bought 3 albums from them, and this is one of them. And let's just say I wasn't crazy about any of them, but I only chose one, and this is probably the one I didn't care for the most. But I know this is pretty highly regarded when it comes to Tangerine Dream. Main issue, it's just ambient music, basically. You know, I get it's pretty influential in the electronic, synth-heavy ambient genre, but I don't know. When it comes to music, I almost never go out of my way to listen to ambient stuff. It's pleasant for like maybe one listen, and maybe if I'm just doing something in the background, I'm fine. But when it comes to actually sitting down and actually trying to take it all in, I just get bored easily. It's just not really much to it that really sinks me in. But then again, I know they changed their style in the 80s, so who knows, maybe I'll like that more. But bottom line, not really into this. And now we get one of the bands that have a very dedicated fan base. And sadly, I cannot call myself a deadhead. So the album I'm going to show is Anthem of the Sun by the Grateful Dead. It is basically another one of those psychedelic, experimental type of albums. And I don't hate the Grateful Dead. They actually have made some albums I actually don't mind. But this period of the band, I just really was not into. It just meanders a lot. And sometimes they have moments where they actually have a good rhythm or a melody that I'm like, okay, I'm actually liking this. But then it just ends. And then it just goes back to just this elongated, aimless jamming, which I just kind of was not into at all. And really, there's no songs on here that I really liked. So this one kind of fits more with the title. Like, I really don't like this album that much. But again, I don't hate Grateful Dead. They made some okay albums, but that's the one I just can't bring myself to enjoy. And now we have another pretty big band, and they were one of the biggest bands of the 80s. And this is my only album I have from them, and it's their big one. Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet. I don't think I've ever expressed my actual feelings for this album. I think I've only like vaguely hinted at it in the past, but Slippery When Wet has some good songs. I enjoy pretty much most of the singles. You know, You Give Love a Bad Name, of course, Living on a Prayer. Like, I like those songs. Those are songs I can see I always go back to. The rest, I don't really have a drive. I don't know. It's just, it's fine. You know, it's good for the time period, but I don't know. Aside from the big hits, again, I don't really care for the rest. It's just kind of, I don't want to say generic, but it just doesn't excite me like other people. And I know there's some people probably in my subscribers that don't even like Bon Jovi, so there's probably a good chunk of you that don't already. But this album sold a lot. It definitely got a lot of sales. But yeah, I just can't really find myself to enjoy the rest of the album. And that's really why I have not bought any more Bon Jovi since. Because I just like those two songs, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, kind of a shame, because it sounds like something I would like, but just wasn't for me. Okay, so this next band I'm going to talk about is a band I'm not sure is that popular these days, but I'm pretty sure back in their heyday when they first came out, they were a pretty big deal. I think they were on Live Aid too. So we have the Power Station with their first album. And this is kind of almost like a supergroup, if you will, because you have Robert Palmer, Tony Thompson, John Taylor, and Andy Taylor. You know, Robert Palmer is a pretty big name, so is Tony Thompson. And again, they were a pretty big deal for a bit, but I mean, funny enough, this was actually gifted to me, so shout out to you, Mickey. But I'll be honest, I didn't care for this one. I don't know, I didn't really find the songs that memorable. Kind of a bit, you know, safe, if you will. And, you know, Robert Palmer, he's a fine singer, but I would not say he's one of my favorites. He's kind of just like, you know, he's fine if it suits, but I don't really ever have a drive to go listen to him sing, you know. But again, it's not a long album, so it doesn't overstay its welcome too much. But I don't know. Yeah, like I said, just the songs just weren't really my thing, and I don't really have a drive to go back to that one. And then we get Bruce Springsteen, and I decided to go with The River. Now, I have said on the channel many times I'm not the biggest Bruce Springsteen fan, but you know, he has made some pretty good albums. You know, I like Born to Run, but this is a double album, and this is where it kind of crosses that line. That this is a bit too much Bruce for me. Again, there's 2 discs on here, as you can see. And yeah, it was just a chore to get through. I just was kind of bored. And again, I'm not really big into Bruce's voice, honestly. And so an album this long with just him, it's a lot to take in. So yeah, I got it because again, people say it's one of his best albums. But yeah, I don't really see that personally, but I know I'm not the biggest Bruce Springsteen fan, and I know there's other bigger fans that like the album more. Next up, we got a pretty big jazz musician. We have Herbie Hancock, and here we have 1973's Sextant. Okay, so I actually do have a couple of Herbie Hancock CDs. I don't have a ton, but I have a couple. And I have Headhunters and I have Thrust, and I really dig those. This one just wasn't really up to what I enjoy, mainly because it has the jazz influence, but he kind of goes for a more avant-garde sort of approach. And if this video has told you anything, I tend to have a harder time with avant-garde type music. It's just really hard for me to latch onto it because there's no real hook or melody that can really drive the whole thing. It just kind of goes through an ear and out the other. But I know Herbie Hancock has a lot of fans, and this is probably during his more celebrated material, or a more celebrated period. But this is one of those albums in that period where I just can't really get into. And now we get to the final two, and I saved these two for last because I think these are probably going to generate the most controversy, if you will, because these albums are highly respected and get a lot of praise from not just fans, but even music critics too. So next, Van Morrison, Astral Weeks. I don't have a ton of Van Morrison. I have Moondance, and I really dug Moondance. I don't know why, I just can't get into this one. I don't know, it's kind of, it's jazzy, and again, I don't mind the jazz sort of thing, but I just didn't find it that memorable. Like, honestly, I can't remember most of these songs. And the thing is, I've listened to this album a few times, but I just cannot seem to latch onto it. Again, people always talk praise of this album, and it was just a big step forward for him. And, I can kind of see that, given to where he started and then he gets to here. It's definitely a big leap for him. But I don't know. I think Moondance is better. That's just me, though. So again, it might be one of my more hotter takes I have. Finally, we have a pretty big band here. We got Fleetwood Mac, and that is Tusk. Now, let me just preference one thing. There are some great songs on this album. Honestly, all the Stevie Nicks songs and all the Christine McVie songs, they're great. I have no issue with them. My big problem is Lindsay. I do not like a majority of the songs he put on here. And again, people say this is one of their best albums. There are people who actually would say this is better than Rumors because of how experimental and how Lindsay was taking the band in a different direction. He was getting, Lindsay was into the Beach Boys, Brian Wilson, and even a lot of the post-punk bands. Like, I think Joy Division is one of them, or other sort of punk bands. And so he wanted to bring that into the sound. But I don't know, man. To me, it comes across that Lindsay is trying way too hard to be experimental. It just comes off as just, and again, I don't like using this word, but it comes off as a little pretentious. Now, let me just say, there are some good Lindsay songs on here, like the title song. I like the title song. That's a good one on this album from Lindsay. But again, there's just so much that I am just cringing listening to. And the most egregious example of that is gotta be Not That Funny. It's not that funny, is it? Like, no, it's not funny. Shut up. Easily one of the worst songs the band ever made. So to sum up, again, not the worst album I've heard. Christine, Stevie, their songs are fine. No beef with them. Lindsay, just a real mixed bag on this album. But makes sense because he was on cocaine while making this. So there's that. Anyway, so that's the 10 albums. So let's do a brief recap. So we'll go in reverse order. We have Tusk, Fleetwood Mac, Astral Weeks by Van Morrison, Sextants by Herbie Hancock, Bruce Springsteen, The River, The Power Station, self-titled, Slippery When Wet, Bon Jovi, Anthem of the Sun, Grateful Dead, Rubicon, Tangerine Dream, Freak Out by Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, And then we got Electric Light Orchestra, self-titled, or No Answer. So those are the 10. I am both terrified and excited to read the comments, so hopefully you go easy on me. But that's gonna do it. So the question goes out to you. What are some albums that you personally don't like, but there's a lot of people that really do? And if you're one of my older viewers, you cannot say an artist from the past 30 years. That is too easy. But that's gonna do it for this video. If you did enjoy this, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, check out Patreon and other ways to support the channel. Links to those are in the description, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care and goodbye for now.